checked your paper, or I mean your examination, your answer, and I found out that not all of you got the correct answer, particularly the design. Okay? Now, I told you that you have to answer all those questions there with your own words. But when I look at your answers, I am very sure you copy it from the book. And in fact, some of you did not understand when I say types of contacts. So what are the things that you answer there? That is very different. Okay? So when we say contacts, meaning to say we have the normally open contact, auxiliary contacts, diba? Main contacts, those are the contacts. And then for example, the different types of control parts. Now, I already explained that one of our videos here. We have the pause button, diba? We have the limit switch, we have the timer, we have the magnetic contactor, we have the overload relays, we have the micro switch, we have the lamps, what else? So those are the things that I need you to answer in your examination. Now remember, all those questions are coming from the videos. And it's sad to note that not all of you are not viewing all the views 1 to 14. That's the problem, diba? Now, remember, I give you enough time to answer the problem. I give you enough time to study the lesson by viewing our videos. But what happened? Now, I do not know if you are viewing it, but you did not like it, or share it, or subscribe it. Because I can really see in the number of who likes and who subscribe, as well as who share. So that's really the problem. So this morning, I'm going to answer the problem. Now the problem is, draw the control circuit of forward reverse magnetic starter with jug in 2 locations. That's the problem. Then when I look at your diagram, you were not able to get it. Meaning to say, I don't know if you viewed that videos where I explained to you the multiple connections or multiple locations, and 2 locations, for instance. And I told you that when that is already multiple locations, or you are going to on and off either A or B, then I illustrated to you the sample. Then I told you, if possible, remember the technique. If that is normally closed, all normally closed will be connected in series, and all normally open contact will be connected in parallel. That's the clue. But what happened to you? You separate one circuit and another circuit. Diba? Try to review the previous lesson when I explained that in one of our videos, 2 locations. So this morning, I'm going to give you the answer of that questions. Again, draw the diagram or draw the control circuit of forward reverse magnetic starter with jug and controlled in 2 locations. So you have here, okay? Now, remember forward reverse. So what we are going to do, of course, you have your overload contact. Don't ever forget the overload contact. Then, you have your normally closed, meaning to say this is your stop button 1. And then since it is connected in series, because that is normally closed, then you connect like this. So, this might be your forward button, this might be your reverse button. Now, how about the start button? So, the start button will be like this. Okay? So, this is the one. This is your first button. And then, you have your second button, because you have to connect that in parallel. And then, you have your interlock coming from reverse. Then this is your forward holding coil. Then you have here your what? Your maintaining contact. Maintaining contact for forward. So this is your forward button 1 and this is your forward button 2. So look at this. I simply connect that in parallel because that is what I discussed to you. And then they are normally open, the normally closed are connected in series. So how about the reverse? The same. You have here one button normally open, and then you have another button here normally open because that is in 2 station. And then you connect that in parallel. You have your maintaining contact. Then of course this is coming from reverse. So look at this. This is your interlock. Then you have your reverse magnetic coil. This is your line 2. This is your forward, and then this is your line 1. So that is it. This is now the answer of the problem. I repeat. Even I will tell you 3 locations, 4 locations, 5 locations, or even 100 locations. So all normally close there. Or the stop button will be connected in series. So there are, let us say, 50 locations. So there are 50 stop buttons that are connected in series. Okay? And then, of course, here, there are also 50 reverse button connected in parallel, but only one maintaining contact. So that is the diagram. Okay? Now, watch out because there are still many problems that I'm going to present to you, particularly the sequential control. Okay? Now, I will give you sample. If the problem is like this, I don't know if I already give it to you initially, but I'm going to repeat it. For instance, the problem is like this. You listen carefully. There are 2 motors. And then the condition is motor number 1 will be energized. Then that is the time that you can also switch on motor number 2 or push motor number 2. Meaning to say, motor number 2 will not run not unless you will, okay? Not unless you will not connect this circuit, or rather, the motor number 2 will not run not unless you will not run motor number 1. So that is a sequential control. So I will give you sample. Now, remember the problem, you have 2 motors. It might be single phase or it might be a 3-phase motor. The condition is like this. Motor number 2 will only run when motor number 1 is running. So if you will immediately on motor number 2, it will not run. So what you will do first, you have to run first the motor number 1. Then that is the time that you can run the motor number 2. Now the power circuit is very easy. It is the same as magnetic across the line power circuit. So what you will do, you just simply connect that in parallel, and each of this motor having an overload relay. So therefore, there are 2 overload contacts. Now, I'm going to emphasize only the control circuit because the power circuit is very simple. So you have here, no? This is the condition. You have your OLC. And then, this is your push button stop. Now, considering that you have 2 overload relays, because each motor is being protected by an overload device, so you have to place here 2 overload contact. So this will be your OLC1, this will be your OLC2. Okay? Then, what you will do, this is your push button number 1, start button, and then that is intended for motor number 1. So this is your holding coil for motor number 1. Then, of course, you have your maintaining contact for motor number 1. So I will press here 1. Okay? So this is your start button. And this is your stop button or off button. Now, for the second button, you can have an individual button. Okay? You can have an individual stop button. But if you want to off the motors together at the same time, so what you are going to do is you do like this. You have another stop button here, intended for motor number 2. Okay? Then you have your what? Your start button. Then you have your holding coil number 2. This is from magnetic contactor number 2. Then this is your maintaining contact coming from number 2. Now, this is not the correct answer yet. I'm going to explain. If you will on, in this circuit, if you will immediately on the motor number 2, it will immediately run. Diba? Press the button here. Of course, the current will flow here. The current will flow here. Then, it energizes motor number 2. But the condition is, the motor number 2 will only run when you run motor number 1. So what you are going to do? So this is now the time that you will use your auxiliary contact, normally open, and coming from number 1. So this is now the correct answer. Now, look at this. If I'm going to press immediately this button, start button number 2, that is intended for motor number 2. Of course, this will close, but the current will not flow going to holding coil number 2 because this is still open. They normally open, coming from number 1. Diba? So you need to close it. So how would you close this? So you need to run. So let us say you switch on, then this is energized. So when this is energized, automatically this will close. Okay? And then this will also close. Now, when this is already closed, that is the time that you will switch on, then the motor number 2 will run at the same time with number 1. Now, why is it that I connected the overload contact in series? Why? Because either of these motors here is defective. All of them will be off. But remember, only one is defective. For instance, there is trouble in motor number 1. Then motor number 1 is overloaded. So what will happen to OLC1? This will open. So once this will open, it disconnected all the motors. Look at this. Open naman. Now, if motor number 2 is in trouble, is overloaded, of course, this one also will open. That is part of the condition. So, the 2 are open. But only one is defective. So, what you are going to do? Locate the overload. See? So, when we say locate the overload, what you will do? Find out what is the cause of the motor. Why is it is overloaded? Maybe it's too much load. Diba? The motor is only intended for 10 horsepower. But you loaded 15. More than 10, more than that the load is good for 15 horsepower. Then you have only 10 horsepower. So your motor now is overloaded. Then to be protected, your windings will be protected because of the overload contact. So overload contact is really very important. Okay? So that is how it is connected. Again, I will repeat. The condition is like this. The condition is like this. You have two motors. Motor number 1 and motor number 2. Motor number 2 will only run when motor number 1 is energized. Okay? Meaning to say, if you will immediately push the button number 2 for motor number 2, it will not run because there is still an open contact coming from motor number 1 or from magnetic starter number 1. So what you will do? You have to energize this first. So once this is energized, automatically this will close. Then that is the time that you will switch on. Okay? So that is what we call sequential control. Now remember, I give you only this sequential is of course using push buttons. But how about if you will use a timer? Okay? How about if you will use a timer? Now the purpose of this is the two motors will run at the same time. Once motor number 2 reach to its predetermined time. Okay? So now, for instance, the condition again is motor number 2 will only run when motor number 1 is energized. But you have to run motor number 2 after 5 minutes. So what you will do, you have to time. Diba? Then that is the time that you will switch on. But here is another controls. What if you have only one push button start and one push button stop? So you don't have push button number 2. Normally, start button number 2. So we have to wait for 5 minutes. So this time, we will be using timer. Now, that would be our next video. No? How would you connect or run different motors, number of motors in sequential control. Okay? So, motor number 1 will run first, and after that, motor number 2 will run first, second, and then the third is motor number 3 if there are 3 motors. So, the motors will not run at the same time, but they will run after the predetermined time of each motor is reached. So, that would be our next video. And that is very interesting. Okay? So, try to review this. Try to review this because this is a very good example because as what I have told you in our final exam, there will be more on problem solving. So, if you have time, view this video. Thank you and good morning.